وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
Good morning, and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hashim with WDMV.com. Today is Friday, December 3rd. It's a nice school day. We expect some snow in the forecast, but other than that, it's going to be a typical December day. Thank you so much for being with us. So we're excited that you're going to be with us. And first, I'd like to share with you that, our thoughts and prayers are with the parents and the families of the shooting at the Oxford at the high school there. There is nothing worse in the world than when family gets the news that their loved ones, the children, their bundle of joy is sent to school to learn have been shot. This is one of the worst thoughts that any parent, it's a nightmare. And, as the authorities continue to do their investigation, we just want to send our prayers and we want to send our thoughts with the families and hope that this chapter, will end. Not long ago, this happened. This happened many times in this country. It is the product of our culture. People taking up arms, and we don't know what the circumstances were. We don't want to jump into conclusions on how this 15-year-old, 16-year-old got the gun from home and went to school and decided to shoot a bunch of his teammates, his schoolmates rather. And it's very unfortunate. Today, whether it is the media, the mainstream media, or the social media, everybody's talking about blame. We are the blame. This culture we have is the blame. We're so crazy about this is my right to have this and this is my right to have that, and forget about responsibility. Responsibility is really what's important here. Yes, we are grateful to live in a country where we have a lot of rights and our rights are protected, but at the same time, these rights, along with these rights come responsibility, the responsibility to own a gun, to carry a gun, to use a gun. All of these things are very important. I do support people have a right to do a lot of things, but everything has limits. And we as a culture condone these things. We don't want to face it. We try to put blames on a lot of things, except putting the blames on ourselves. And how many times has this happened? How many schools have been hit? 60 schools are closed today because of threats. This is part of who our children are. This is part of how we raised them. All these people are making calls to make threats. People take guns and kill people. It just so easily. It's amazing. I hope that we learn from it, and I hope this would be the last shooting at a school or anywhere in public like that. I know it's not going to happen, but this is what we hope. We just want to send our love, our prayers, and our thoughts with the families and their extended families and the victims, and we wish those who are injured a quick recovery. There's a lot in the news. We've had a very kind of unusual year, 2021. leading into, coming from 2020 and into 2021. And one of the things that continues to haunt us, and that's the coronavirus with new strains and a lot of promises from government and a lot of changes in 2021, hopefully for the good. Now we have vaccines, we know more about the virus, we can do a lot more, hopefully, to contain it. We can live with it more because we know a lot more about it. And then we're going to be talking to, hopefully 2 different guests. One of them reviewing basically what's going on, what has gone on into 2021 worldwide. And later this month, we'll be talking about what's been going on locally. And that was a different segment in the month, this month. I just can't believe the year is gone. Today is December 3rd. Within 28 days, we'll have a new year. It will be 2022. So, again, a lot has happened during those years. And we're going to be joined soon to talk about the Palestinian issue, what has changed there, which is, not enough to really move this issue to any resolution. We'll be talking to one of our dear guests later on. Also in the news, and I can't believe this continues to happen, Congress approves yet another extension to fund the government. I can't believe that we send these guys to Washington to represent us and do the business that needs to be done to run this government. And what they're doing is they're working against each other. They are working against each other. When ideology trumps common sense, we're doomed. And that's what's going on in Washington. Ideology is trumping common sense. Republicans today are anti-mask, anti-vaccine, anti-anything that has to do with containing the virus. I don't understand. What is it they know that all of these scientists don't know? All of a sudden, Republicans are smarter than everybody else. Democrats really don't know what they want. They're in disarray. They can't even agree on their own agenda. We're in trouble. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. And I'm glad to be independent because both of them, I'm talking about people in Washington. It's just insane. They're willing to work against each other instead of working together. What happened with the days when politicians, put their ideologies aside, put their partisan thinking aside, and did the right thing for the country? What happened to those days? Why can't we do that again? I don't understand it. Again, we send these guys to Washington to do the right thing, and they're not doing it. And I'm sorry to say that. I don't care whether they're Democrats. I don't care whether they're Republicans. They're just not doing it. They're just tied into this, my ideas against your ideas, and I'm right and you're wrong, and I don't want to work with you. You don't agree with me, you're wrong. This isn't how it works. We don't have to agree with each other, but we can work together for a common cause to save this beautiful country and serve this beautiful country. Unfortunately, we don't have those politicians. Maybe we have a few. And I'm not saying everybody in Washington is like that. Maybe we have few, but the majorities are not like that. And it is because of us. We're selecting the wrong leaders, and we're giving the wrong message. And that's a shame. It is really a shame. I travel, and I travel all over the world. There's nothing better than this country. However, we come back, and then we have all of these petty issues that getting in the way of doing the right thing and moving America forward. And, there are a lot of challenges in the world. And we can't face them if we continue to work against each other. I come from a country where people work against each other. I come from Lebanon. And look at what Lebanon is right now. It's destroyed. Look what Syria is, destroyed. Look what Libya is, destroyed. Look what Yemen is, destroyed. Look at Arab countries killing each other. Why? Because they don't work together. We have to work together. We cannot continue to do this in this country. This is a beautiful country. The only thing protects America is if we work together. We don't have to think the same. We can all have different ideologies, but we have to work together, respect each other. Okay? Find a way, middle ground, where we can agree on things. Do not force your opinion on me, and I'm not going to force my opinion on you. That's what's wrong with the world. It's very important that you work together. And I can't stress that enough. It's really unfortunate that we can't promote, as people, we cannot promote this kind of philosophy. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19, and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Al-Majid Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, hoisin, grape leaves with steak, mishawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hashim with Michigan.com. Michigan.com is the main source of business news and information in our community. In the Arab American communities in Michigan, we focus on real estate, mortgage news, and we provide support for small businesses and recipes and much more. Visit us on Michigan.com. Again, going to continue the discussion. Before we go back into what I was talking about, I want to wish our founder and the person behind this great operation, U.S. Arab Radio. I want to wish her well. She traveled recently to Jordan and came back, and she change of weather, she wasn't feeling well. I just want to wish Layla Al-Husni well and hope that she's feeling much better today. We need you back in full energy, and you are the most important person in this radio, and your energy is really missed. We hope that you're going to be get better soon and get back. We were talking about 2021, and it has been a very interesting year, specifically in the Middle East, and not so good year in the Middle East. The war in Yemen continues. A lot more innocent people are dying, and unfortunately, Arab countries are becoming more like a bunch of bullies. Recently, if you criticize the war in Yemen, then the Saudis are going to go after you, because the Saudis, with the help of the U.S. and Britain, are mainly responsible for the killing of most of the innocent people there, because they're the one who are waging a war on Yemen, regardless of who's fighting inside the Yemeni countries. Inside the country of Yemen, there is a civil war going on. Iran is involved. Saudi Arabia is involved. Qatar is involved, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Other countries are involved, but most of the killing has really, most of the victims, have been innocent people. The country is devastated. I always wondered if Saudi Arabia had given all that money to the Yemenis, will they really worship Saudi Arabia and solve that solve that conflict? And that goes to any conflict. The other issues in the Middle East that has been really the main issues in the Middle East is the Israeli-Palestinian issue. And, regardless of what issues are going on in the Middle East, this is the main issue in the Middle East. And, it has been going on since 1948, maybe longer, and hasn't been resolved yet. And with us this morning, our good friend, Dr. Khalil Jahshan, a Palestinian-American political analyst and media commentator. He's also executive director of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. Dr. Jahshan, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning to you, Khalil. It's good to be with you.
Thank you so much. Just very quickly, what's the update? What has gone on in 2021 in regard to the Palestinian question? And then, are there any signs that there's going to be some kind of resolution?
With regards to the last part of your question, it's very, frankly, to be optimistic about the prospect for a peaceful solution to the Palestine question in the near future, or even medium and long term. In terms of 2020, it's been a year of steps, unfortunately, particularly with regards to U.S. policy since the new administration, the Biden administration, took over, and kind of left the impression that first it's different from its predecessor in terms of policy in general, but specifically in terms of the Middle East, including the Palestine question. However, aside from good statements in the right direction, rhetoric, we haven't seen anything yet. There are promises of reopening the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem as a symbolic toward the Palestinians. But in terms of resumed efforts by the U.S., which claims to be the sole legitimate intermediary between the Palestinians and the Israelis, no initiative whatsoever yet, other than worthwhile, but it hasn't produced anything practical. A statement that both sides, this idea of false symmetry that has characterized U.S. policy for many years, that both sides are entitled to be treated fairly and to live in peace.
Dr. Jahshan, we're having a hard time. Your line is breaking out terribly. We're having a hard time really hearing you. What we're going to do is we're going to try to call you. Maybe we can get a better reception. For some reason, we're just not getting a good reception. Maybe the location that you're in. Just give us 1 second so we can, please hang up and give us 1 second to call you. Maybe we can get a better reception from you. And as we wait for that, yes. as we wait for that, I just want to add that, we have been kind of disappointed with the Biden administration. We thought it was going to be a departure from the previous administration and help us find a solution to the Palestine issue. But unfortunately, it's not. We haven't seen any major changes. The talks in Palestine about annexing in Israel rather, annexing the occupied territories. That's the area that the Palestinians hope to have their own state. I don't know at this point if it is really worth having a state, which is a territory of the Swiss cheese. What Israel's been doing is trying to, buy as much time as possible so there can be no two-state solution. I want to welcome Dr. Shashan back, and maybe we can hear you better now.
Thank
Can you hear me?
I apologize for the technical difficulties.
That's okay. That's okay. We depend on technology, and sometimes it does not.
We are at the mercy of technology. Yes.
Absolutely. I mentioned, maybe you were listening when I was talking about that, is the fact that we're kind of disappointed with the Biden administration has not done enough to really, just like Moro wanted to maintain the status quo instead of really moving the negotiations forward to find a solution. What were your thoughts?
I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, you and I are not the only two people in the country and worldwide that are disappointed in the Biden administration because, frankly, the administration left the impression during the election campaign and after it came into the White House, left the impression with everybody that it's, number one, different from its predecessor. Number two, that it seeks to adopt a totally different U.S. policy that is fair, but beyond statements to that effect, public statements that both sides need to be treated fairly and need to live in peace and dignity and what have you, generalities like that. We haven't seen any practical steps, and the ones that were promised, even though they were symbolic, they were not even implemented, like the reopening of the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem. So other than maybe extending some humanitarian aid to Palestinian refugees through UNRWA and steps like this, we really haven't seen anything. Even the recent visit for the first time by a senior Biden administration official, our ambassador to the UN, that visit itself raised a lot of questions about the even-handed nature of the Biden administration's policy.
The Trump administration was, very pro-Israel, and then his son-in-law, President Trump's son-in-law, who is Mr. Netanyahu's good friend, and they lobbied for whatever they want to lobby for. Now, why should we expect more from the Biden administration, knowing that Mr. Biden is a Zionist? His Secretary of State is pro-Israel, and I don't see any changes there except lip service. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a good question. Frankly, change is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to U.S. policy in the Middle East. As far as my memory serves me, if it's still valid at this age, I would say that most presidents, in my memory, have been biased to Israel. That's the nature of U.S. society and its politics in the region. Even though the U.S. claimed and arrogated for itself the right to do all the peace processing in the region over the years, it hasn't really qualified as an even-handed arbiter in this conflict. It has taken sides in support of Israel all along. However, this administration, as I said, promised during the campaign to be different. And frankly, it is different from its predecessor. The Trump administration, for all practical purposes, not only sided with Israel, typically of all successive U.S. administrations, but it declared war on the Palestinians in terms of severing relationship with them or forcing them to sever relationship with the U.S., cutting aid, humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, and essentially, in a shameless way, declared its one-sidedness publicly and implemented it in policy. This administration claims to be different. So we are holding, if you will, this administration for its words. We're not asking it to do something that it did not promise. But it's time, after so much time in office, it's time for Mr. Biden to begin to deliver on this issue, while, of course, taking into consideration preoccupation with other domestic and other challenges facing the U.S. I mean, Palestine is not the only challenge, but it's an important challenge. The U.S. plays an important role in the region, plays an important role in impeding peaceful solution, to this question, plays an important role in the leadership of the so-called democratic world. Yet on this issue, there is somehow kind of Palestinian exceptionalism. We support democracy everywhere except Palestine. So unfortunately, we haven't seen any progress on the part of the administration.
Is the two-state solution still a possibility, considering there's not much land left, contiguous land left to really create a state?
I don't think so. I think it was a credible suggestion at one point many years ago, but frankly, the adamant Israeli opposition to two states, which has become permanent policy in Israel, and the inability of the administration to convince Israel to change that, even though that is the policy of the administration, as evidenced by statements as of today. The administration remains publicly on paper in support and in pursuit of two-state solution, but the two-state solution has died long time ago. As we say in Arabic, Allah yarhamu. We should refer to the two-state solution as the late two-state solution. It's no longer feasible because of continued Israeli annexation of Palestinian land, continued settlement building, continued steps, de facto steps on the ground to prevent the implementation of this proposal, totally contrary to the U.S., which, in a way, our tax money, your tax money, and mine are supporting Israel, and in a way are supporting its adamant, if you will, opposition to one of our main policy objectives in the region, the two-state solution. Absolutely. It doesn't make sense to me. That's why I've always called for normalizing relations with Israel, not allowing Israel to dictate U.S. policy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Final thoughts on 2022?
In politics, there is always, one has to be hopeful. There is always a little hope, as slim as this might be, for the administration to wake up and to put its foot down and say, this is what we would like to see in the region. But it's difficult, as I said earlier, to be hopeful in the context of passivity and lack of not only political will, but moral will to confront the Israelis. A case in point is, as I said, the recent visit by our UN ambassador to Israel, Palestine, and Jordan. She attempted to be even-handed in her statements, but frankly, the lack of symmetry in U.S. Position came across very clear, even in the time she spent with each party and the quality of the meetings she held, and the inability, even the lack of courage to even have a picture on her website of her meeting with the Palestinian leadership. So it is very difficult to be optimistic, even with the declared intention of this administration to be different.
Well, Dr. Shashan, I really appreciate you being with us this morning. Hopefully things will change and provide better time for the Palestinians, for a change. Thank you so much.
God willing, inshallah. Thanks.
Okay, and Happy New Year, just in case I don't talk to you before the end of the year.
Thank you. Same to you and to your listeners.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true in the face of flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Now more than ever, getting your flu vaccine is essential. Flu vaccines are proven to be safe and effective. In a typical year, flu vaccinations prevent millions of illnesses and thousands of hospitalizations and deaths in the U.S. Everyone 6 months and older should be vaccinated this flu season. To protect our essential workers and those who are at highest risk for flu complications, such as people over 65, children younger than 5, pregnant women, and those with underlying health conditions, we need to face the flu together. Help us hit the flu head on. Get your flu vaccine to protect your community and your loved ones. Learn more at michigan.gov/flu. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab offers a great array of your favorite Mediterranean meals. Meals range from lamb specialties, shawarma sandwiches, and seafood dinners. Plus, they offer big trays of your favorite food and so much more. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab is located at 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills and is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So stop in or call Kashat's today at 248-538-9552. That number again, 248-538-9552. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Welcome back and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hashim with Michigan.com. And we just want to thank Dr. Khalil Jahshan for being with us and talking about the lack of any work with the I want to say improvement or progress on the Palestinian issue. The Biden administration has been a big disappointment on that. We thought that they would really make a difference on that. There are many other issues in the world also that we've been watching. And with us this morning, Dr. Brad Roth, Professor of Political Science and Law and Director of Undergraduate Studies at the Department of Political Science at Wayne State University. Good morning, Dr. Roth.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? And thank you so much for being with us. Before we leave the Palestinian question, which continues to be the main question in the Middle East, any thoughts on what 2022 could bring us that 2021 did not?
Well, I think looking for improvements in the short term will probably be fruitless. I think, though, that in the longer term, what we're seeing is a transformation slowly of consciousness about the nature of the Israeli project as we continue onward indefinitely in this period of supposed peace process that never yields any kind of progress. And so I think that when you have the kinds of events that have taken place in the last couple of years, with renewed consciousness about issues of colonialism and race and the nature of what a certain kind of supremacy has wrought in particular parts of the world, including here, I think that there's a possibility for people to come to a different kind of understanding about what actually is occurring. We have a situation where the Israelis have managed to have it both ways with respect to many issues, where they have claimed on the one hand that the occupation is merely that, it is merely an occupation, therefore temporary, therefore not integral to the nature of the Israeli state, and yet at the same time the occupation is predicated on principles entirely at odds with the international law of occupation. The Green Line from 1949 is neither a border nor not a border. It is a unidirectional border. What's ours is ours, and what's yours may also be ours. And so this is a continual theme that I think can be challenged.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you think the two-state solution is still a possibility?
Frankly, no. I think that the facts on the ground have been established in such a way as to basically preclude this, but I think also that the important thing for people who continue to advocate the two-state solution in good faith, it is sort of put up or shut up time, that the point needs to be made that if we continue on the path that we're on, we are going to need an entirely different framework for understanding what the relationship is between Israelis and Palestinians. That kind of new framework is very disagreeable, including to moderate Zionists who want a two-state solution in order to prevent having to call into question fundamental aspects of the Israeli state. But if they want to take that position, then they have to actually demonstrate the viability of Palestinian sovereignty in the territories that were taken in 1967. And that is an onus that can be placed on people, but it's an onus that frankly, they can't bear. The record demonstrates that.
Absolutely, absolutely. To move on to, what's going on in Washington, I mentioned something early in the program, to my dismay, they're still kind of pickering at each other, and they're not really accomplishing what they wanted to accomplish. Republicans, Democrats don't like each other, don't work together, working against each other. Is there any way these things can change, or this is going to get worse next year?
I think it's going to get worse. Anytime you're headed into an election year, things are worse. Republicans are emboldened by the results of the elections locally in Virginia and in New Jersey in November, and they also have favorable polling numbers in a number of different ways. And so they have every reason to be more resistant to the Biden administration's agenda. And I think we're going to see all the more posturing over time. One wild card in all of this is actually the Roe versus Wade question, as the Supreme Court considers whether or not to upend a precedent that's been in place since 1973. That could be a Pyrrhic victory for the Republicans, because the overturning of that decision could let loose a new wave of activism that may reinvigorate a Democratic Party that right now is somewhat in the doldrums.
Absolutely, absolutely. The coronavirus continues to really haunt us, but it seems that we have learned a lot more. We have more people vaccinated than last year, and we now can manage it better because we have more of the science. Do you think that this may not affect the political or the economic atmosphere in the U.S. and the world?
Well, I am not in a position to say what the future holds with respect to any of this. I think none of us knows what the Omicron variant is going to mean for any of this. But the longer this goes on, unfortunately, I think that the levels of frustration and polarization surrounding all of this will increase. There's going to be, on the one hand, more frustration expressed against those who refuse to be vaccinated. People who refuse to be vaccinated will continue all the more to see themselves as victims and to act out in various ways. I think that there's a kind of general fatigue in the country about the virus in general and the kinds of restrictions that necessarily arise from this kind of public health situation. And unfortunately, I think that fatigue can have the effect of eroding the legitimacy, ultimately, not only of public health measures, but also of the party in power that is seen as responsible for those public health measures. So again, I think we have a lot to be concerned about in the coming months over this, not only in public health terms, but in political terms.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, all of this coming together to play a role in, in Washington with people not getting what they're supposed to do. I mean, here's the president has yet to have his infrastructure plan passed. This is something we thought they would both agree on. It seems like the problem is within the Democratic Party itself, and then, as you mentioned, the issue of restrictions come into play and become political and has hindered really what the president wanted to accomplish.
The problem with the infrastructure plan, I think, is not exactly a problem within the Democratic Party. It's the fact that the Democratic Party did not receive the kind of majority that it needed to be able to push through the kinds of plans that it had. It has to resort to this budget reconciliation procedure in order to get around the filibuster. But this gives enormous power to really two senators who are looking to position themselves in between the parties. And one of those senators, Joe Manchin, really is beholden to Republican votes. So he is a Democrat by party affiliation, but he is playing to a base that is not Democratic. And things are so close that one vote plus the vote of Kristen Sinema in Arizona, is the entire ball game with respect to what kind of package can get through.
Yeah, to jump to a different part of the world, which is China, and the Chinese recently voted for their president, giving him a lot more power. Would that translate more into China having more economic, expanding its economic power worldwide?
Well, whether it has the capacity to expand its economic power is unclear, but the political situation has definitely changed. That we've had in previous periods since the transformation post-Mao in China. We've had a number of leaders who have had a basic status quo orientation, who have been looking to proceed cautiously on the world stage, and who have also, been contained in many ways by the structures of the Communist Party, being limited in their terms. Xi Jinping is a very different kind of leader, and represents a new kind of boldness and assertiveness, and we see this on a great many fronts. From my perspective, the most worrying front, someone who is concerned with self-determination and statehood and such matters in my work in international law, is the problem of Taiwan. And so we see an increasingly menacing position being taken. The People's Republic of China has long taken the position, of course, that Taiwan is an integral territory of China, that China indeed has the prerogative to use force or threat of force to incorporate Taiwan into the People's Republic. But Xi Jinping is backing that kind of general framework with a new kind of assertiveness and using airplanes intruding into sensitive strategic spaces in order to highlight the point and play to a nationalistic audience at home. And so this is quite dangerous, I think.
Yeah. Does the fact that the conflict that's going on in Washington, does it make President Biden a little bit weaker economically in confronting China?
I'm not sure that there's a problem in that sense. I think that there is, if anything, an effort of different people to kind of outbid one another on questions of getting tough with China. The difficulty is that the United States is economically entangled with China, and so there's always this weird duality of the way in which the United States seeks to confront China. We need to have accommodation on a wide range of issues, economic and otherwise. And at the same time, we feel this clear sense that the Chinese military is taking measures in the region that are potentially damaging to collective security. And so the question is whether it's going to be possible to maintain a kind of working relationship with the Chinese on the sorts of questions where cooperation is desperately needed, including international public health, while at the same time facing down the Chinese on at least a few of the fundamental questions. I think the Chinese are going to get their way with a lot of this, including this construction of islands in the South China Sea and really sort of turning that into a Chinese lake, as it were. But I think more fundamental questions have to do with how human beings are being treated in different places, especially Xinjiang province, and of course the confrontation with Taiwan. And it'll be interesting to see whether it's going to be possible to muster a kind of demonstration of resolve in the face of China's very real influence in economic and other geostrategic terms.
Absolutely. Jumping to Russia, Putin seems to continue to solidify his power in Russia. He seems to be going nowhere. This guy has been there forever, and there has been some disdain between him and this administration. He was supporting President Trump. But what could happen in 2022 that we didn't see in 2021?
Well, again, always hard to tell. But Putin is certainly flexing his muscles in a number of different ways. One having to do with natural gas supplies in Europe, another having to do with this refugee crisis on the border of Belarus and Poland, which Putin seems to be pulling the strings behind. He has a number of ways. There are a number of pressure points that Putin can exploit in increasing his leverage. One area is Bosnia, where he has a kind of a clientelistic relationship with Milorad Dodik, who is the leader of the Bosnian Serb entity, Republika Srpska, which is always looking to destabilize the Dayton Peace Accord solution in Bosnia, the consociational solution in Bosnia. And these are kind of irritants that Putin can play on in order to potentially extract concessions, perhaps extract a reduction in sanctions against Russia. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because there is a substantial potency to his capacity to make trouble for various actors, particularly within Europe.
Yeah. Finally, the negotiations between the Europeans and Iran. This has been one of the biggest issues really fueling conflicts in the Middle East. And the U.S. decided during the Trump administration to walk away from the agreement, the nuclear agreement. And now, although the U.S. is not part of the negotiations, but there are hopes that there'll be some breakthrough in there, and Iran is asking to itself from some of the sanctions imposed by the U.S. How has this, what could happen there?
It's unclear to me because I have not followed the details of what the European countries have been doing, what positions they've been taking. The interesting thing is the way in which the United States has been kind of put out of the game. There's a real cost to making agreements and breaking them. Even though this was not officially a legal agreement, it was an international political agreement, but it represented the solemn word of the United States in the international system, and the United States has kind of demonstrated itself not to be a reliable partner in agreements. And I think that in the end, will have long-term significance in terms of eroding the capacity of the United States to be able to conclude agreements that are significant to international peace and security. I think that the United States has clearly worsened the security situation by withdrawing from the agreement with Iran. The question of whether the European powers can now in some way retrieve some aspect of the security that had been gained by that agreement remains to be seen.
Absolutely, that's it's unfortunate what the U.S. did, and as you mentioned, piling sanctions were very difficult to remove, and that leaves more bitter taste among everyone. Is there and part of the work that we missed that you like to bring up? Any final words?
Well, I don't know. There are many things going on in many places. One area that I've tended to focus on very recently is Northern Ireland and the effect of the Northern Ireland Protocol on conditions relating to the peace agreement in Northern Ireland, and I've been looking at the peace agreement in Northern Ireland as in some way a model for reconceptualizing the relationship between Israelis and Palestinians. But the British have done some very peculiar things in their effort to divorce from the European Union, and what they've done in many ways is to leave their allies in Northern Ireland, the Unionist community, hung out to dry by establishing a sea border, effectively leaving Northern Ireland for many purposes within the scope of European Union trading relations. And this has created some very interesting tensions there. And a remarkable level of duplicity on the part of the Boris Johnson government, which sold its Brexit agreement as meaning one thing for Northern Ireland when very clearly it meant something else. And I think that the loss of credibility of the Johnson government on that front, along with some other fronts, is potentially going to be transformative to the politics there in the short term.
I want to thank you so much for being with us, and want to wish you happy holidays and happy New Year if we don't talk to you before the end of the year, and hopefully that the world will find a way to be more saner in 2022 than it has been in 2021.
Well, thank you very much. Good talking with you.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hashim. I want to thank Dr. Brad Roth for being with us and shedding light on some of the events of 2021 and what could happen 2022. And again, hopefully that things would work out for a more saner world in 2022. And also want to thank Dr. Khalil Jahshan. He's a Palestinian political activist and thank him for his thoughts and input on the Palestinian issue, which is, I agree with both guests that, the two-state solution really is something of the past. There needs to be a lot more viable solution, which is for everybody to live together in one, everybody to live together in one area and in one time. So hopefully that will happen next year. Lastly, before I let you go, this is something that I always am asked to give a little bit of input on, and which is the real estate market. As you well know, I work in real estate in addition to being a journalist, and the market is still pretty hot. And we expect it to be even hotter next year. This time of the year, it kind of tapers off a little bit. It's settled down a little bit. This is a great time to buy. It's still a good time to sell as well, but still it's a great time to buy. So prices now have stabilized a little bit. And the reason is that the demand is not as strong right now. However, once, I would say February comes around, these things, the price is going to go up. So if you are in position to buy, I would buy now. If you want to wait till March and April, you're going to have to pay more. And not only just paying more, you're going to have to compete with other people as well. Just like last year, people were paying more money for the home than they should. So this is a perfect time if if you want to buy. And it is perfect time to sell as well because, we still have very few homes on the market. And when we have low inventory, that keeps prices at a really good position. If you have any questions about, you want to know what your home is worth, what your property is worth, give me a call, 313-819-0101, 313-819-0101. I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you and find what's the best option for you One of the biggest mistakes in real estate is that people try to use the same stick to measure everything. It doesn't work out that way. Each property is different. Each location is different. Each person has their own unique situation. Today with the technology world that we have, anyway, we don't want to get into that right now. We wish you a wonderful weekend and be safe. Thank you, Mike, for great production. Bye now.